Hello,
Hello.
can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, Ritesh.
Okay. So I am live on mm, a shareable link. So I'll share the link with you. Check if you can join from. So I'll share the link with you.
I'll check. Yes, I'm able to log in from YouTube also.
Okay, great. Chalo, so both the links are ready then. You
Yes.
can share it with everybody
Yeah.
and let them join from wherever they want. Mm, ideally, okay, no worries. It would be good. Sure. So today we are going to understand about books. Everyone, good afternoon. How are you all? Hello. Those of you who have joined on Zoom, please switch on your cameras. I see that we have like 16 students on Zoom, 16, 17, and then 10 or probably 8 on YouTube. We still have a lot more people to join in. Hello. Can you hear me loud and clear? Hello, can you hear me?
Ritesh, give me 5 minutes. Some volume issues happening.
Sure. I'll wait. Hello. Are we sorted with the audio?
Yeah, you can start now, Ritesh.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. How many of you were able to practice what we did during the last session? Please type out in the chat box. If you are able to practice what we did during the last session, please type out me in the chat box. Hello, hello, hello. I don't see a lot of responses. Okay. People on YouTube are more active than people on Zoom. Come on, it's a competition now. Were you able to practice what we did during the last session? Come on, come on, come on. I know you might be feeling sleepy after lunch, but we have to be active. People who have joined on Zoom, you're still in good afternoon. Come on. Were you able to practice or not? If you're not able to practice, then put no in the chat box. So I know that you are active and you were not able to practice. Quick, quick, quick. Let's not waste time. Hello, can you hear me or not? I don't see any responses coming in. Without the response, I'm not going forward. Mansa ma'am, do we have any problem with the audio?
Sorry, Ritesh.
Do we have any problem with the audio? Because I see that there are around 30 people joining in from Zoom.
We will connect it, but waiting for the technician, but you can continue.
I'm not able to hear you. There's a lot of echo. Hello, hello, hello.
Many people type telling that little audio issue is there, waiting for the technician.
Please do let me know once the audio issue is fixed so that we can get started.
Ritesh, you can start, Ritesh.
Okay. Am I audible very clearly? Hello. Hello, can you hear me? Yeah, so people on YouTube, I know that it's audible for you. I'm just waiting for people on Zoom to confirm because they have not been responding and it doesn't make sense without everybody being able to hear me loud and clear to get started. Hello, 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 hello. Am I audible loud and clear? Everyone type in chat box, especially the ones in Zoom call.
Hello, Ritesh.
No,
You can hear,
I can hear, man.
but your voice is coming very. There is a disturbance.
You will have to check at your end, madam, because there are multiple people saying that they are able to hear it clearly. And also our team members have joined on the other end.
Hello, Ritesh.
Yeah, hello.
Ritesh, can you speak?
Yep. Can you hear me?
Yeah, now we can hear you.
Okay, everyone. Can you hear me loud and clear? Are we good? Okay, good. This is nice. Okay, so how many of you were able to practice what we taught or what we covered during the first session? Typing me in the chat box. Okay, good. A lot of responses. Good, nice. Okay. So I spoke to Meghna, who had reached out to all of you, and thank you for the feedback. We really appreciate your honesty, and that's why you see that we have already made arrangements for you to join platform of your choice, because we saw that uh, almost 50% of you mentioned that you would like to join on Zoom, and the other 50% mentioned that you would like to join on YouTube, and that's why we arrange for both. And as we can see, we have equal number of people joining on both the platforms. Okay, so I hope you enjoy this session on the platform of your choice, and we will get started with today's topic. We are already 15 minutes late, but we'll try to cover as much as possible. Are you all ready? If you are ready, please type in ready in the chat box while I prepare the screen for you. Again, I don't see any responses from the Zoom people. Are you able to hear me? Please respond, guys. Otherwise, energy will not flow, right? You'll make the session boring. Come on, if you're ready, please type in ready in the chat box. Out of 30 people in on Zoom, we have just 4 responses with ready. Is that your energy, guys? This is what you want to share? Come on. Yes. Okay, great. Thank you so much. So I'll quickly recap what we did during the last session, and we will get started with the next topic. So we saw visual elements, okay, namely text, button, icon, link, image. We ignored the shape. We covered alert, video, and we ignored the HTML map and built on Babel, right? And we also covered what are the properties of these elements. I hope you were able to practice them and get to understand about properties of each of these elements. And then we also covered input forms, namely input box, multi-line input, checkbox, drop-down, search box we have skipped for now. We have done radio button, we have done slider, we have done date time picker. We've also done drop-down, and we looked into picture uploader and file uploader. Okay. So today what we are going to look at is container, which is basically in container, we are going to look at grouping in for today's session. Okay. And for that, I'm going to create a new page like we saw during the last session. To create a new page, we will click on this particular corner and click on add new page. And I will name this as group. Okay. Let's create. Now, let's quickly understand what are groupings. Okay. When we combine two elements together, okay, in a container, that's called a group. Okay. So let's say, for example, I have one element. This is text 1. And then I have one more text element, which is text 2. Right? Now, if I combine these together and group elements in, let's say, fixed container for now, okay, then this is a group. Right? So I'll call this as group 1. So one of the advantage of grouping is that I can move the elements together. Right? So when I move the group, the elements which are added within the group will move together. Okay, that's not the only advantage. There are a lot of other advantages which we will be covering one by one. Did you understand the fundamental basic of grouping? If yes, please type in yes in the chat box. Oh, great. Thank you everyone for responding. Please be active. It definitely helps me being energetic and share with you with more energy, which will make the sessions even more interesting. Okay. Now, what I'll do is I'll delete this, right? And we will try to replicate the login or register, what to say, page of one of the social media platforms. Okay. So I'll open the social media platforms in incognito mode just so that we can see the registration page. Let's say facebook.com. Then we have LinkedIn. Then we have X. I think a lot of you are active on Instagram. Okay. Instagram might not be a good example. But yeah, do let me know which one do you prefer. Facebook, LinkedIn, X, Instagram is not a good example for us to learn. Or it's okay. Yeah, tell me, which one do you want? LinkedIn, okay. A lot of responses on LinkedIn. Come on, come on, come on. A lot of them say LinkedIn. Okay, let's get started with LinkedIn. Okay, so I'm going to close all the other platforms, right? And we will start with LinkedIn. Okay, so I'll close this. What we are going to cover today is not this top section over here. Okay, not anything in this gray area. We will be covering the white portion. Okay, whatever we can see in the white area here, along with this image and these things over here. This is what we are going to cover. Okay. Please do not send a direct message to me because when I reply back, it will only come to you. Please type out for the entire group. Okay. For people in Zoom, please do not use direct messages. Okay, cool. So let's get started with LinkedIn. And so we have group here. Okay. So let's start with whatever we can see on the left side. Okay. So we have text here. So I'll go back and the text element. Okay. So I'll just copy paste from here and add that text over here. Okay. Now we can see that this is larger and they have with the height. We'll also have to change the font size. Let's say 32. I think 32 is good enough. Looks like I'll just increase this even further and like this. Okay, so 32 with maybe 500 and then color to be a darker gray. Okay, so we've got this one covered. Okay, the next one we have is continue with Google. Okay, and let me add a button. Okay, this is all with whatever we have learned from session 1. Okay, I'm not doing anything with whatever we have not learned. I'm just using whatever we have learned for now to understand how this layout can be done with whatever we have learned. And then we will understand why grouping is important and how do we go about doing it. Okay, so this button is not just with label, but icon and label. I don't recall if we discussed about icon and label when we discussed about button. If I have missed it, I'll just quickly cover that. When you add a button, okay, it'll just have a button type as label, but you can also make it as just icon where the button will have just icon, or you can also use icon and label, okay, which allows you to select the icon and then label. So for this, we will have to go with Google. Material icon does not have Google, so let's go with phosphor. And we have Google, but this does not match it so nicely. Ionic does not have. Let's go to feather. We do not have bootstrap icons. Okay, so let's use this one. Okay, and continue with Google will be the label. So continue with Google. Okay, the color seems to be lighter shade of blue. So I'll change the background color to the lighter shade of blue. And we can also see that the corners are rounded. So I'll go to the roundness and make this as 30. Okay. So are you able to follow so long so far? Yes, everyone. Type in yes in the chat box if you are able to follow so far. Okay, great. So similarly, we have 2 more buttons. So I'll just copy paste the same thing and bring it here down. And we need one with Microsoft. So I'll search for Microsoft. We have one and continue with Microsoft. Okay, as we can see, we have a border. We don't have a background color. So I'll make those changes. Icon color should be, we don't have a colorful this thing. So I'll make it as dark. And font color is also, let's say, black. And background color is nothing. And we also have a border, which is probably dark. Okay, so we've got this one as well. Now we need to have sign in with email. So I'll copy this, head over here. Okay, and we have no icon and just sign in with email. So I'll make this as just label and sign in with email. Sign in with email. Okay, and then we have a text over here for which I'll add a text element. And the text has these wordings. I'll use that. I'll just increase this so as to match. Okay, and then I'll reduce the font size. Okay, let's say 11. I think they have 11 or 12. Let's not worry too much about it. And then there are clickable links on user agreement, privacy policy, and cookie policy. So I'll firstly go to user agreement, get the URL. And what I'll do is closely observe. I'm going to rich text editor. Okay. When you add a text element, you get an option of rich text editor over here. So I'm clicking on that. And then if we go to LinkedIn, you can see user agreement is being linked. Okay. So I'm going to select this user agreement text in the rich text editor and then click on this link option, insert a link. It'll ask you what is the link. I'm going to paste the user agreement link. And we can also change the font color over here. Let's say blue. Okay. And the next one is privacy policy. This is the link. So I'm going to copy this, going to privacy policy. I'll add the link. I'll click on insert, and then we can also change the color to blue. Finally, we have cookie policy. I'll copy this link, come back, and I'm going to select cookie policy. I'll insert the link, and I'm also going to change the color. Okay, so now it looks something like this, but you can see here, we have it being shown just like how it would be, it is on LinkedIn. Okay, following so far? Are we good? Please type in +1 in the chat box if you are able to follow so far. Okay, good. So one last thing on the left side is new to LinkedIn, join now. Okay, so I'll add that in the single text. So I'll just copy this one. I'll paste this, and let's go to this thing. I'll just, for now, I'll just make this as https, okay, google.com, right? And I'll also change the font color so that when we hover, we can see that it's a link. Okay, and that should come in the center, and this also should be center line. So I'll make this a center line. I'll get this to center aligned. Okay, and let's just have this so that it matches the width of everything which is on top. Let's click on preview, and let's see if this is close to what LinkedIn is, right? Not exactly. I mean, we have not worried so much about the styling, but let's see if it is close to what LinkedIn has. Okay. Now on the right side, we need to add an image. So let's go back, and we will get image. This is not a picture uploader because we are uploading the image from our side. Okay, so let me see if I can save this image. Yeah, I can. So I will save this image, and I'll use the same image over here. So I'll click on upload, and let me go to downloads and upload this particular image. Okay, and maybe increase it slightly. Let's increase the width of the page a bit more. Okay, so I'm going to group, which is the page name, and width I'll make it as 1080. Okay, so that we have more space to play around with. Okay, and I'll just shift this even further towards right. Okay, so let's come here and see if, okay, so please type in the chat box +2 if you feel that this matches closely to what we have here. Of course, we have not done the top one. We have not done anything below, but we are just looking at this particular portion. If you think that this is matching LinkedIn, please type +2 in the chat box. Okay. So I hope you are able to follow until here. Okay. Now, if I have to move these things, right, all of this slightly towards left, then as of now, what I have to do is I'll have to move each of this separately, one by one. Okay. Instead, what I'll do is I will select this, use Shift to select multiple elements. Okay. All of these are elements, right? I'll use all of this. I will group elements in fixed container. So now when we go to group elements in, we have 4 options, right? Fixed container, row container, column container, and align to parent container. Okay. Firstly, I'll go with fixed container. I'll select this, and you see that everything, every element remains wherever it was. Okay. The only thing that happens is there is a group surrounded with all the elements added within. Okay. And if we go inside, you can see all the elements that we had added within. Okay. So we have this text. Okay. We have this text. We have this button. We have this button. We have this button. And then we have this text. Okay. And every element, okay, added within the group has some X and Y, values to it, right? So the first element, which is on the top, has a X and Y of 0, 0, which means it is sticking to the left top, right? If we go to the next one, which is the button, continue with Google, you see that the X value is 0 because the left of it is sticking to the border of this particular group. Yeah. Likewise, the X of this is 0, X of this is 0, X of this is 0, X of this is also 0. Okay. The Y keeps changing because from the top, okay, this is at 0 value with regards to Y axis. This has a value of 129 with Y axis. This has 198. This has 264. This has 336. And this has 407. Okay. Now, if we go to LinkedIn, right, the space between these two buttons and the space between these two buttons are exactly the same. Okay. In our case, it might not be. Okay. Let's check it out. So we have made this as 129 Y. I'll make it as 130 for easy calculation. The height, I'll make it as 40. Okay. Likewise, I'll change this to 40 as well. I'll make this also as 40. Okay. Now, if the Y value of this is 130 and the height of this is 140, okay, and this is 198. So I'll make it as 200, right? What is the space between these two? The Y value of this is 130. The height of this is 40. And this one, Y value is 200. So what is the space between these two? How many pixels gap do we have between these two? Come on, simple maths. Okay, we've got a couple of answers and they are right. Thank you so much. We have 30 pixels of gap. Okay. Now this is also 40 with 200. So what should be the Y value of this particular button to make a gap of 30? This is also 40 pixels height and this is 200. Now, if I have to make this, the space between these two as 30, what should be the Y value? Come on, come on, come on. Simple math, right? 200 plus 40 plus 30. Okay. So 270. So we'll make it as 270. Okay. Now we are sure that the space between these three are, space between this button and this button and this button and this button is the same. Okay. Let's go back to LinkedIn. Oh, this space doesn't seem to be 30, right? We have to make it as 15. Let's come back. Okay, reduce this by 15. So I'll make it as 185. And now I have to reduce this by 30. 15 from here and 15 from here. So I'll have to make this as 240. Okay, a lot of maths, right? Headache. We'll get rid of this. Don't worry, very soon. Okay, so I'm moving this further up. Maybe 310. I'll move this up. I'll move this further up. Maybe 375. Okay, I'll reduce the height of this. Let's quickly check in the preview mode. Okay, I hope the spacing looks better now. Okay, and matches more like what we have on LinkedIn. Yeah, do you all agree? Please type in +3 in the chat box if you agree with me. But how many of you feel that doing all of this, like calculation, how much should be the Y value, how much should be the X value, and all of that was a headache? If you felt that it was headache, and if at all we can get rid of it, you will be happy, then type in me in the chat box. How many of you would be happy to get a simpler solution for arranging this? Type in me in the chat box. Only 3, 4, 5, 6. Come on. Okay, good. So before we get into what is grouping as row and what is grouping as column, and the third one aligned to parent container, let's go to a simple spreadsheet. Okay. So all of you have used Google Sheets or Microsoft Excel, right? Do you know what are columns and rows? Is this a column or row? Whatever I've selected here, is this a column or a row? Okay, great. You all have used it then, right? So this is a column. So closely observe what is the property of a column. Each of this is a cell, right? Each of this is a cell. Every individual box in this particular spreadsheet is a cell. In a column, are the cells stacked one below the other or one besides the other? One below the other, type in below, and one besides the other, type in besides. What do you think is column layout? Below or besides? Okay. So please keep this in mind. Column means elements one below the other. Okay. Now let's see. What is this? Column or row? Of course, if this is column, this has to be row, right? So here, are the cells one besides the other or below the other? Okay. So now you know what is column and rows, right? Column is when each of the cells are stacked one below the other, and rows is when each cell is stacked one besides the other. Are we good with this? Can we continue? Okay. So for that, I'm going to create a new page, right? And I'll call this as container layout. Okay. Let me add some text boxes here. Text 1. Okay, I'll add some background color to it. I'll add text 2. I'll get this here. Let's change the color. And let's make this as text 2. I'll add one more. Make this as text 3. Change the color further. I'll add one more. We'll change color further. Make it as text 4. And finally, I'll add one more, which is called text 5. And we will change the color further. Okay. Now closely observe. When I select all of this, okay, all the texts have been selected. I will group elements in fixed container. Okay. Closely observe what happened when I group them in fixed container. Every element just remained wherever they were. Okay. The elements didn't move. Okay. Elements didn't move, but a group was created surrounding all the elements together. Okay. I'll just undo this action and observe this. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'll move this one over here. I'll move this one over here. I'll move this one over here. Random movement, right? And again, I'm going to select all of this elements and group elements in fixed container. Did any of the elements move? Any of the elements moved? This is very, very critical, and that's why I'm taking good enough time to explain this concept. Okay. The entire of web application development will depend on this learning. So pay close attention, please. Okay. None of the elements moved. Okay. The box was created from border of each of the elements, right? So this was the topmost, so border came on there. This was the leftmost, so the border came here. This was the bottommost, so a border came here. This was the rightmost, so we got a border here. So surrounding all the elements, there was a group created. Now observe. This particular element will have a y of 0 because that is taken to the top. Now, if I move this down, okay, wherever I drop it, it will stay there. Because the container layout is fixed, which means wherever you drop, it will stay there fixed. If I drag this and drop it over here, it will stay there fixed. If I drag this and drop it over here, it will stay there fixed. If I drag this and drop it over on top of this, it will stay there fixed. Okay. I can drag it and drop it over here. It will stay there fixed. What I mean is when you use fixed layout, right, it will be based on X and Y values. Okay. So if I go over here and move this, okay, it went to 521. If I make it a 600, the group will still remain here while this goes outside the group. Okay. It is completely basis X and Y values of the parent group. Okay. So if I make this as 0 versus 0, then it will go to the left top. Did you understand what is a fixed layout? Yes. Did you understand what is a fixed layout? Okay. So if the parent group is a fixed layout, then the child elements in that parent group will have 4 parameters. Y, which is width of the element, H, which is height of the element, X and Y are the axis, right? So it is basis the parent group's, what do you say, axis. So if I make this as 10 and if I make this as 10, then this particular element will be 10 pixels from the top of the parent group and 10 pixels from the left of the parent group. Okay. This is what is fixed layout. Now, can you all tell me what will happen if I make it as column layout from the understanding that we have got from here? Okay. What is column? Elements, cells besides each other or below each other? Besides or below? So if we use the same concept here, if I make this as column, what will happen to these elements? Let's see. I'll put column. And you can see that each of these elements come one below the other, just like we would see in a spreadsheet. Right? This is element 1, element 2, element 3, element 4, element 5. Of course, the text has got replaced, like this has become 3, this has become 4th element, this has become 3rd element, and so on and so forth. We can move that. Right? I can make this as next. I can make this as previous, whatever it is. But closely observe what has happened to the elements. Now it is not fixed anymore. Right? Even if I drag this and drop it over here, it will go and insert in between. It will always be sticking to the left side. Okay. One of the element will be sticking to the top and the next element will be sticking to the previous element. The next element will be sticking to the previous element. Likewise, all the elements will be sticking one below the other. Is this clear, everyone? Are you following? Okay. Whenever you are thinking about container layout, just get Google Sheets or Excel file in mind. Okay. You will understand what is column, what is row. Right? Very simple. Just think what is column in your Google Sheets or Excel file, what is row in the spreadsheet. You will understand what would be the layout. Okay. Keep in mind that this will be sticking to each other, just like cells in this one. Okay. These are sticking to each other, right? Similarly, it will be sticking to each other. Now, any guesses what will happen if I click on row? What will happen if I click on row? If I change the container layout from column to row? Besides, yes, you can see each of these elements sticking to each other, one besides the other. Is this clear, everyone? Did you understand what is a fixed layout? What is column layout? And what is a row layout? Very, very important. Okay, and that's why I'm going slowly. I hope it's all making sense now, right? Okay, great. Now, let me get this back to column layout. Okay. We do not need elements to be sticking to each other generally. We want spaces in between so that it looks neat, right? So even if we go to this one, this is not sticking to this. Now this is not sticking to this. This is not sticking to this. And each of these elements are not sticking to each other. So how do we add spaces? Let's go to the group. Okay. Closely observe. Let's understand the container alignment a bit, and then we will go to the next one. Okay. So here we have mentioned that top aligned, which means all the elements are sticking to each other. And the first element is linked, attached to the top of the container. If I make it as bottom, then the last element will be touching the bottom of the parent group. If I make it as center, then none of the elements might be touching the top or the bottom. Okay, based on the size of the group. And if I reduce the size of the group, of course, it will touch. Right? If the size of the group is larger, then it will not touch either the top or the bottom. Okay, based on the availability of the height of the group. Okay, now we have two more elements here, two more container alignment options available, right? One is space around. Okay, closely observe, this is space around. So what happens here is it applies spaces around all the elements. Okay, so if I select this one and if I go here, this is 38. If I select this one and if I see the difference between these two, the gap between these two, 38. If I see the gap between these two, this is 38. If I see the gap between these two, it is 38. So it applies equal spacing between each of these elements, plus the space between this element and the border of this one is 19. The space between this and this border is also 19, which clubbed together will become 38. Okay. So the space on the top and the bottom combined will be equal to the space between each of these elements. Okay. Now, if the pixel, like for example, now this is 432. If I make it as 431, of course, there will be one pixel gap somewhere. So this is 19, but this would be 18. Okay. Or there is some gap added somewhere here. Okay. It will distribute that way based on the height that we have. Okay. Now, if I reduce this to or reduce or increase this, okay, let's say I make it as 500. The space will accordingly increase. Okay. So the spacing between these elements and on the top and bottom will be based on the height of the parent group. Okay, that is space around. Now we have one more option, which is space between. Now it is much similar to space around. The only difference being we will not have space any at the top or the bottom. We will not have any space at the top or the bottom, but we will have equal space between each of these elements. Does that make sense, everyone? Did you understand what is all of this container alignment? Are we good? Type in +4 in the chat box if you have followed so far. +4. Sampath, please refrain from sending direct messages, because if I send a message, it will come only to you. Okay, send it to the entire group. Thank you. Okay, good. Now, I don't want to use what do you say, space around. I don't want to use space between. I want to use top align, but I want to add space in between. So what I'll do is apply gap spacing between elements. I'll click on this. It'll ask me what is the row gap that you want. Okay. Now this is to be considered as one row. Now this is to be considered as another row. So what is the row gap between these two rows that we need, right? So if I go to this particular parent element, the row gap is 0 for now. I'll add 5 pixels, and you see 5 pixels being added between each of these elements. If I make this as 10, automatically just give me a minute. Okay, sorry. So here, when we added 10 pixels of row gap, we can see that 10 pixels have been inserted between these two elements. Okay. Likewise, when I go and make this as 20, even more spacing will be added. Clear? Are we good so far? Okay. Similarly, I'll just remove this. We will change from column to row. Okay. Now closely observe what happens. Okay. We have container alignment because it is row alignment. Okay. Where elements will be sticking one besides the other. The container alignment has changed. It's not top, center, bottom. It is left aligned, center aligned, right aligned, space around, space between. The concepts is exactly the same, just that the way it is aligning will be different for column and row. Is this clear, everyone? Are we good? I am going very, very slow so that you understand these concepts very clearly, because this is the foundation of building any web application. Okay. You do not want to be building a non-responsive application, right? What do I mean by non-responsive application? So let's go to LinkedIn here, right? I am going to reduce the size of the screen. Okay. You see that the content is getting adjusted based on the screen size. Right? This was 2 lines before. Now it has come to 3 lines. Reducing this further, further, further. By the way, this is not a good option, but LinkedIn thinks it is. Okay, we'll go further. Ideally, it should not overlap like this. Really strange that LinkedIn has not. Oh, not sure. This is seriously LinkedIn. Okay. On this screen size, okay, this button should have been in the center. Okay, but yeah. Okay, so we will reduce the screen size further. Okay, and you can see that the image has automatically come down. Okay, it was on the right side when we had larger screens, but when you reduce the screen size further down, the image will automatically come down because we are moving towards mobile and we don't have a lot of width, but we will have height, right? We can scroll up and down. It's easier to scroll up and down than right and left. Yeah. And that's why whatever is on the right side will move to the bottom. Okay. And this is responsive. Though this page is not very responsive, and I'm really shocked with that. But I hope you understood what is responsiveness. Okay. Clear? Can we go on? So I'll make this as left aligned and I will add gap spacing between elements. Now, normally this would be 0 and 0. Okay. In the previous case, when the container layout was column, we had to add only row gap. But when the container layout becomes row, it is asking us for both row gap and column gap. Let's understand why. Okay. Firstly, I'll add column gap to begin with 5. So you can see 5 pixels added between the elements. I'll make this as 10. 10 pixels added between the elements. I'll make this as 20. And you can see that this particular element, which was on the right, came to the bottom. Okay. Now, it has added so much gap here because the group size is very large in height. So I'll reduce the group size. Okay. And now if we add the row gap of 5, then you can see there's gap added over here. Right? So if I make this as 10, then this will also increase. When we add elements in row container layout, okay, there is high chance that if the elements are not fitting in the same row, then it will go to the bottom. And that's why when we make it as row layout, it will ask us for both. What is the row gap that you want and what is the column gap that you want? Is this clear, everyone? Are we good? Please type in +5 in the chat box if you are able to follow so far. We have still not covered what is align to parent layout. Okay, we will come to that. But let's first understand this and let's implement the learning on our group page, which we were building this particular page. Okay, this particular design. So I'll go back to the group layout. Okay, I'll show you why we have to do it with column or row layout on this particular page. I'll click on preview. And like we did for LinkedIn, I'll try the same logic over here as well, where I'll keep reducing the width. Okay, until here it is all good. But the more I reduce, you can see that it has given us right-left scrolling. you reduce it further, the image is gone, right? Because it is giving you right and left scrolling. Okay, the image has not come down automatically. Okay, and that's why we have to make it responsive, which means irrespective of whatever is the device that you're using to view this page, it needs to look neat and clean without allowing you to right left scroll and only scroll up and down. Okay, can we start doing that, everyone? Are you all ready? So what is the first step? Should we change this one to, should this particular group be fixed, column or row? What should it be? This particular group, the left group. Come on, everyone. Column, column, column. Okay. Anybody who thinks it should be row? We've got about 7 responses so far. What about the remaining 40 people? Okay, most of you think that it is column, so let's change it to column and see if that works. So I'm making it to column. What happens? All the elements are sticking to each other, right? So what is the next step that we have to do? What is the next step that we have to do here? Hello, hello. What should we do? Thank you, Karthik. Thank you, Akshay. Yes. Okay. So let's add some gap spacing. Okay. Now, when we're adding gap spacing, we should select the minimum gap spacing that required between all the elements. Because if you see this button and this particular text has a gap spacing is of probably 20-25 pixels. Likewise, we have 25 pixels over here, and this is around 40 or 50 pixels over here, right? While the gap between these two is probably just 15 pixels, right? So we have to take the minimum of all the gap spacings and then apply that gap spacing over here. Okay. Now, there are multiple ways of adding different gap spacing. One of it is combining these 3 buttons again within a column container and applying a gap spacing of 15 over here, right? And the main group can have, let's say, 25, right? So this element, and this element, and this element has a gap of 25 each, but within this group, these elements have 15 pixels of gap. Okay, this is one way of doing it. I'll revert this back, right? I'll remove the group. And the other way of doing it is, now because we need more gap between this and this, I can also add something called margins or padding. So let's try to understand what are margins and what are paddings. Okay. So for that, I am going back to container layout. Okay. So I will create a copy of this one. Okay. So I've created 2 groups here. Okay. And let's call this as padding. and let's call this as margin. Okay, so we have created two groups. One is called group margin and one is called group padding. And for both of it, I'll add some background color. Okay, let's say pinkish. And for this also, I'll add the same color. So I'll just copy this particular hex code. I'll come to this group, add the same color. Okay, let's preview this. Any difference between the two? Do we have any difference between these two groups? No. Only 2 people, 3 people, 4 people say it is no. The rest of them? Come on, come on, come on, type it. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is for one of the groups, I'm going to add margin of 20, 20, 20, and 20. For the other group, I'll add padding of 20. Oh, sorry, not the same group. The other group. I'm going to add padding of 20, 20, 20, and 20. Okay, because it is coming out, what I'll do is I'll increase the height to 200 and I'll bring this slightly down and increase the height to 200. Okay. So everything same, just that this has got margin of 20 on all the sides. This has got padding of 20 on all the sides. Let's quickly go here and see. I want you to identify what is the difference. Let me add a background color to the page, which will give you much better understanding. So I'm going to the background style. Background style, okay, yeah. Yeah, actually it doesn't. Yeah, background style doesn't make any difference. Yeah, but yeah, you can let me know what is the difference between these two groups now. Okay. What is the difference, guys? Come on. Find the differences. Second one is margin. Yes, Pratham, you are right. Okay. So the first one, we added the margin, right? And what actually happened is that it added space on the outside of the group. Okay. So when I click on this particular thing, you can see that we have spacing added on the outside of the group. Whereas when I add padding, the spaces are added inside the group. Okay. To understand this better, what I'll do is I'll add this within another group, okay, which will be column layout. Okay. So I've added this particular group, which is group C, and I'll add a color to it. Let's say reddish. So I'll copy this particular color. I'll add this also within the group of column layout. Okay. I'll change the background of this and same color. Okay. So what we did, we added two groups. Okay. one which is group C, which is over here. And within this, we have group padding. Oh, sorry. I have named it wrongly. So this is group margins. Sorry about that. And this is group padding. Okay. So we have group C, which has group margins in it. Okay. We have added margin to this particular group. And we have group D, which has group padding in it. And we have added padding to this particular group. When we preview this, okay, you can see that here we can see the outer color as the border, because when we add margins, right, the margins are added outside the group. Okay, so whatever is the margin of the group, now if I make this as 50, 50 on top and bottom, of course, I'll have to change the height of this one a bit. Let's say 280 or even 300, right? You can see that on top and bottom, we can see this particular color with more height, because that much is the margin that we have added to this particular group. Whereas over here, okay, we are not able to see because we have added padding, and padding is within the group. And that's why the elements over here is not sticking to the left top, like in this case, but we have 20 pixels and 20 pixels on the left and top. If I go to this particular group and add, let's say, top padding of 40 and left padding of 40, then we can see that this particular element will move 40 pixels down and 40 pixels towards the right. You can see here. Are you clear of what is margin and what is padding? Anybody has any doubt with regards to margin or padding? Margin is adding space outside the group. Padding is adding space within the group, inside the group. Okay. So let's go back to the group page. And now, because we need a margin can also be added for elements, by the way. Okay. So we have this element and we need about, let's say 30 pixels, wherein we have added 15 pixels already in the group itself, right? So what I'll do is I'll go to this particular element and I'll say bottom of this element, I'll add one more 15 pixels of space. Okay. So additional space of 15 pixels will be added below to this particular element. Likewise, for this element, I'll add 15 pixels on the top, and this element, I will add 10 pixels. We will go back here. Of course, I'll click on preview for that particular page. And you see that this has come out as per what we need here with regards to the spacing. Are we good, everyone? Now let's make it responsive, okay? There are a couple of more steps that we have to do to make it responsive. Are we good so far? Are you following? Now tell me, we did a grouping of this particular elements, okay? Now if I have to group this entirely as one element and this as another element, should it be row or column? Should this be row or column? This as one element and this as the second element. Hello, hello, hello. Quick, quick, quick. People on YouTube are very active. Okay, so we have to make it as row. So let's come back. Okay, so I'll select this particular parent group, which is group A. Now I'll rename this as group left. Okay, and I'll select the image. I'll right click and say group elements in row container. As expected, both of it will be sticking to each other, one besides the other. Okay, I'll call this as group main, right? And we can add spacing between these two. And column gap will be, let's say, 60. Okay, and it is going below already. Okay, and that's because this particular, what I say, main group is in fixed layout. So we have to make this also as sum of the layout. Okay, we will make this as column for now. Okay, we will make this as column for now. Let's come here and we can see that this has become fixed width. I'll remove this fixed width for now. Okay, and we can see that it is one besides the other with a gap of 60. Okay, row gap I'll just put as 30 for now. We will slowly understand. Now, the page width is so much. We don't want this particular group. Okay, I'll preview this and show you. Now you can see that this is coming to the left top. Do we need it in left top? We want it in the center of the page. Yeah. So I will make this to be center aligned. Oh, not this one, but this particular one. We will make it a center line. And this one, okay, we haven't spoken about the horizontal alignment and all of these sections yet. Okay. Closely observe. I'll be talking about the horizontal alignment now, and we will open up for question and answers. Okay. When the parent group is column layout, we have container layout as top, center, bottom, space around, and space between. Okay. But any elements added within a parent layout which has column, we will have horizontal alignment, which will be left, center, and right. Okay, we will skip this for now. Now, I don't need this to be sticking to the left. I want this to be center, so I'll make it a center. And you can see that this particular element has come to the center of the parent group. Okay. Now I'll go to this particular group. This is container layout row. So we have left, center, right, space around, and space between. But when I go to the elements within this particular group, okay, we have group left and one image. If I go to image, then we will have vertical alignment, which is top, center, and bottom. So if I go to this particular group, I can make it a center aligned. So within this group, it will be center aligned vertically. Is this clear? Based on what is the parent group's layout, we will get the vertical alignment or horizontal alignment for the child elements within that group. Is this clear, everyone? Okay, this might be confusing. Please watch the recording. Please do practice. You will get a hang of it. Is this clear? Can we quickly check if this is matching what we want on LinkedIn? Okay, I'll remove this debug mode equal to true. Okay, that is because we have this text and all. We will cover what is that later. I'll remove that and you can see that this will come in the center of the entire page. Is this looking nice, everyone? If it's looking nice, please type out nice in the chat box. And we'll check if this is working fine or not. I mean, responsive. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, yeah. Okay. So you can see that it is still not nice. Okay. We have, what is it, scrolling still available. So what we will do is we will go back to this one. We will go to the responsive tab that is available here. Okay. So by default, it will be in the default state where the screen size is 1280 because we mentioned that this particular group is default builder width of 1280. Okay. So if we go to responsive tab from here, we will be able to see how it will look for 1280 pixels. I'll reduce this slightly so that we can play around. I'll reduce this further. Okay. You can see that we have come to, you can see what is the page width over here, 1095. It's still fine. We will come even further. Okay. Now it has gone to the bottom, but it is sticking to the left. Okay. This is sticking to the left. Okay. That's because container layout is left. Okay. We will make to center. We will expand this. Okay. We will get this reduce. So you can see that at 1045 or less, it is coming one below the other, which is okay. Yeah. I'll reduce this even further. So you can see that this is like the page width or the group main width is already more. That's because we had added a minimum width of 1036. So we didn't manually add, but when we started building this, it has got a minimum width of 1036. Okay. If you want your page to be responsive enough, then ideally the minimum width can be anything more than 320. So I'll make this as 320 and I will allow fit width to content. Okay. So now I'll reduce this further. And you can see that the image is going outside the group because we have mentioned the width of the image is 588, right? Minimum, that is fixed width. Okay, we will understand what is fixed width, what are the other things that we have to do with images, okay, during the next session, because it's a lot that we have covered for today, and I don't want to confuse you even further with what is this, fixed width and min width and max width and so on and so forth. Okay, so apart from the image, I think we have got most of the things responsive. Okay, there are a few things that we have to tackle, which is with regards to the min width and max width and so on and so forth. So apart from that, you can see that everything is got responsive. Yeah. Are they good? Apart from the image and a few width based issues, are they good? Everyone? Type in good in the chat box if you're good. Awesome. Thank you so much. Okay, so that's all we had for today. Okay, now I'm going to open up for Q&A session. Okay, you can put it in the chat box, whatever questions you have. For people on Zoom, if you want to ask any questions, if you want to, like for now, you don't have to share your screen because I would assume that you wouldn't have done anything apart from what we covered during the last session. But moving on, we will allow you to share screen and so on and so forth whenever we are doing specifically Q&A sessions. Okay. For now, you can put your question in the chat box and I'll answer them so that you can understand it. So for the next 20-25 minutes, we will do Q&A. and then wind up at 4:45 as per our expected time. So please put in your questions in the chat box. I'll be more than happy to answer them. No questions at all. Okay, thank you then. See you next time. Okay, so if there are no questions, what does it mean? It can mean two things, right? I think you have heard this multiple times during your classes. No questions means two things. Either you have understood everything or you have not understood anything. What is it? Number one or number two? Okay. I understand that we learned a lot today, and you might still be digesting whatever we did today. Okay. And that's why in the first session, if you remember, I told that you have to do one thing, which is practice, practice, practice. Right? So, for those of you who have practiced, good, keep it up. For those of you who didn't practice whatever we covered during the first session, please do practice. Otherwise, within the next two sessions, you will be completely lost. Okay? I would ask all of you to practice. Okay? So, one thing I want from all of you, okay, I'll give you some assignment which I want all of you to share with us by Monday. That is to choose any of the platform that you want. Okay, like we used LinkedIn, right? You can choose any platform of your choice, right? It can be Airbnb, Airbnb, not this one. We have not yet covered this. Maybe Quora. Any this thing which has login, right? Again, you don't have to do whatever is on the background here. I want you to just cover this portion, right? The center part. Again, Hindi, Kannada, and all not required. This bottom part is not required. Okay, just this section. Yeah. If you want social media platforms, you use social media platform. If you want Quora or any other platforms like this, where the what is it? Information is limited like this, right? So you have text here, you have text here, and then you have two parts, right? Where you have again some text button and so on and so forth. So text, input box, text, input box, text, and then button. Yeah. So something like this. Choose any platform of your choice and get this particular thing done. Okay. Using grouping. Okay. Abhilash asks a question. Sir, we are grouping three buttons, right? It depends on whatever you want to group, right? So in our case, we have grouped this one, we have grouped this button, we have grouped this button, we have grouped this button. So we have grouped a lot of elements here. So if I just expand this, okay, this particular group has one text to begin with, and then we have button, 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 text, and text, right? And then in this particular group, which we have called as group main, which is a container layout row, we have group left and image. Yeah. Does that answer your question, Abhilash? Are you clear with what is the assignment for today's session? Everyone? They've got 1, 2, 3, around 10 yes. Others, you've already left of what? Come on, please type in, type in. Yes, 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 yes. Okay, great. So we want all of you to finish this grouping part by Monday. Okay. And I saw a lot of you joined the bubble roundtable last week on Saturday, right? You all are welcome to join this. Of course, this is not a part of the program that we are conducting at Sayadri. This is open for all the bubblers who wants to learn, and you are also welcome to join it. So basically, what we do during this particular session, which happens on Saturday for 2 hours, 7 to 9, is we share something new that we have learned, right? All of you are free to join and share what you have learned newly. Plus, if you have any questions, you can also ask that. Okay. And if you have no questions, that's also fine. You can still join in to learn from others' questions. Yeah. Feel free to join it if the timing matches it. Okay. I know that you might not be in college during this time, but you can still join from your home. Yeah. So everybody is welcome to join this call, which happens tomorrow from 7 to 9, the link of which will be shared in our community. So feel free. I'll wait for another 3 minutes. If you have any questions, feel free to ask it. I'll answer it. And I'll repeat again, please practice, practice, practice. Because if you don't practice, you will be lost in the next 2 sessions. Okay? Trust me on this. Every single thing that we're going to do from now on will be based on grouping. And if you don't understand how grouping works, then you will keep wondering what is Ritesh doing and not understanding anything, right? So please do practice, guys. If you have any questions, please put it in the community, right? And those who have understood the concept will answer it, or I will answer it whenever possible, right? And we can handle this during Q&A sessions as well. And feel free to join tomorrow's Bubble Roundtable, which happens from 7 to p.m. IST, of course. Need silence. How many of you felt that it was session filled with value? Type in me in the chat box. Did you enjoy the session? Only a couple of you. No, you can be frank. I mean, if you didn't enjoy the session, that's completely fine. You can share the feedback. Of course, Meghna will, what I say, put a poll and she'll reach out to you to get feedback so that we can keep improving. If you didn't enjoy, that's completely fine. You can share what went wrong and we will improve upon it. But if you thoroughly enjoyed, if you truly enjoyed, then you can type in the chat box or share the feedback whenever it is asked in the community. Okay, then thank you for being honest. I see that a lot of only few of you have enjoyed this session. So let's understand what went wrong. Meghna will reach out to you and let's see how we can improve during the next session. Thank you everyone again and have a nice evening. See you on Monday, or for those of you who are joining tomorrow, feel free to join. Most welcome. Thank you once again. Have a nice evening. Happy weekend. Bye.